Hi, so today we are going to talk about prolapse repair. Specifically, we're going to get into surgery, what surgery might look like, my experience with surgery, both as a physical therapist for 20 years, also personally, because I've had the surgery. And we're going to get into your questions about mesh, because I know that's a really big topic. So keep in mind, I have many different resources and videos that talk about my experience before surgery as well, how to manage it with exercise, how to manage it through lifestyle changes. I did all of that for almost 8 years before I had surgery. So I think that's a really important component of this. If you have grade 1 or 2, please go to those options. I want this to be a safe place. I want this to be a place that you feel hope. I know how frustrating and scary a diagnosis of prolapse is. I know how much fear-based information there is out there. I want to take you away from that and to a place of feeling empowered, to a place of feeling hopeful and strong. And part of that is knowing that if you have grade 1 or 2, you are not a surgical candidate. Okay, you don't need to be here hearing about surgery. If you want to know what it is, great. Again, this is a safe place for you. But please know, as a physical therapist, if you have grade 1 or 2 prolapse, I'm going to recommend women's health physical therapy. I'm going to recommend many other conservative treatments. Surgery is not even going to be on the table for you at this point, okay? So that's good to know. So if you have grade 3 or 4, you might be at the place where you want to know what surgery looks like. I'll tell you my personal history. I had a prolapse after the birth of our first daughter in 2013. It was a very long, very hard labor. I had to use a vacuum to have her come out, caused a prolapse. I managed it and lived with it for upwards of 7 years. I never really considered surgery during that time, to be honest. It was a scary thing for me. I knew at the time we wanted more babies. It wasn't on the table. And yes, the idea of mesh scared me quite a bit. As a physical therapist who started my career in the year 2000, I have seen issues with mesh, so that concerned me. And we're gonna get to those issues, okay, I promise. So surgery wasn't on the table for me. My prolapse continued to get worse. And at the age of 42, almost 42, I was 41 actually, almost 42, I was done breastfeeding our second baby. I knew medically I couldn't have more kids. I probably would have if I could have, but I couldn't have. And so it really was at a point I had to take that next step. I saw a urogynecologist. You all know if you've watched my videos, that is a huge step. There's 2 things I recommend 100% that you do before you make any next choices. 1, see a women's health physical therapist, okay, get evaluated, get treatment, find out where you are, and see a urogynecologist, okay? I didn't for 7 years. I saw my OB. My OB is great, but they don't specialize in prolapse. I didn't get the information I really needed to put me on the right track. So a urogynecologist specializes in prolapse. They're gonna help you. So those are the 2 people you really need to see. So after seeing a urogynecologist, I found out I had not only a cystocele, which is a bladder prolapse, but I also had a rectocele, so a rectal prolapse, and I had a uterine prolapse, a pretty bad uterine prolapse, which I didn't even know about. So again, I was grade 3, grade 4. I had a bulge all day long, constantly. I was peeing 25, 26 times a day. Those were the things I personally wanted to manage. So when people ask how I knew I wanted surgery, I didn't necessarily. We want 100% answers, and we don't always get them. I have had numerous abdominal surgeries for my endometriosis, so this was my 3rd. I've also had surgeries being put under anesthesia for other issues. So I knew what was involved with surgery, especially when it feels somewhat elective, and I knew I would never get to that 100%, yes, here we go, this is gonna be awesome. You don't really get to that place. What you do is you weigh the pros and cons of living with it and trying to manage it, and the pros and cons of surgery. And I had gotten to the point that the risks of surgery were less to me than what the cons were of living with a prolapse the rest of my life, again, being 41 years old at the time. Okay, so that's something important to know, is you just need to look at your lifestyle. You need to look at your life, what you're being limited in, what your goals are for the future, all of those things, and you weigh that against what is going to happen possibly with surgery. What I tell my physical therapy clients dealing with surgery is, you might just wake up one day and say, you know what, this is it, I'm gonna have surgery, I can't live like this anymore, so I'm taking that next step. And that is kind of what it feels like. It doesn't mean that you 100% have this total positive thought of what's going to happen with surgery. It's that you don't want to live with the way you are anymore. You can't do it conservatively. You've tried everything out there, and surgery really is like the next option. I'm willing to do it because I don't want to live like this anymore. That is more the feeling you will probably have when you're addressing your own surgery. Okay, so it's important to keep that in mind. So for me, I got to the point that I knew I was going to have surgery. I met with the surgeons. I had numerous opinions and different surgical consults. So one thing to keep in mind that people ask is about the mesh. I'll tell you what procedure I had done, all right? So I had my cystocele and rectocele repaired vaginally. So they go up, they snipped a lot of tissue, the loose tissue out, used a lot of stitches to tighten it back up. I also had a hysterectomy. That's the only way to actually fix a uterine prolapse. And with my endometriosis, that was an option for me. So we had the uterus taken out. So I had a full hysterectomy. The only thing left is one ovary. I also had my cervix removed. So stitches to fix the front of the vaginal wall for my cystocele, stitches and repair to fix the back of my vaginal wall for the rectocele, and then also the hysterectomy to take the uterus out. None of that involved mesh. Then I had a sacrocolpopexy done. That is a procedure where they use mesh and they attach it from your tailbone to either your cervix, or if your cervix is gone, they attach it to tissue to keep your vaginal wall lifted, and it's to prevent a vaginal vault prolapse after hysterectomy. Okay, with the damage I had and with how severe it was, those were my options. Now let's talk about mesh. The important thing to know is there is a difference between transvaginal mesh used for prolapse repair and the mesh used in a sacrocolpopexy. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I know how important it is to stay hydrated, and it's one of the hardest things for me personally to do. I keep water with me all the time, but sometimes I get to the end of the day and realize I just haven't drank enough. Built Boost is helping me right now, you guys. It is a delicious tasting powder that you put in 16 ounces of water, and somehow when I do that magically, I drink the whole thing within 5 minutes. It is so hydrating, it is so delicious. It gives me 100% of my vitamin C, my vitamin B, it gives me echinacea, so I feel like I'm supporting my immune system, and it gives me a tool to stay hydrated. So my friends at Built Boost have offered you a coupon. Use code VALANT20, VALANT 20, to get 20% off your own order. Multiple flavors to choose from. I think you'll love it. The link is below. Remember, stay hydrated, feel energized, and take care of yourself. In 2019, the FDA actually made people stop selling the materials used in transvaginal mesh repairs for pelvic organ prolapse. That is probably what you know about and what scares you, and I understand that. But that's mesh that was used transvaginally. So vaginally, they would go in and attach mesh to the front and the back of the vaginal wall to repair a cystocele and a rectocele. Okay, so that's the procedure done. That's what the FDA said, nope, we are not seeing good results with that. There are lawsuits. We're going to stop the sale of that mesh. It's actually very different than the procedure for the sacrocolpopexy, which is done abdominally. So I had laparoscopic surgery. It was done abdominally. Now, I am a research girl. I am not a doctor, and I am not your doctor, okay? I can just tell you from my experience and the research I've done. But whatever questions you have, it's important to take these to your surgeon, because they're the ones who know what they're doing and can talk you through it all. Because one thing that research does show, a huge thing, is that surgeons with more experience have better results. So if you're worried about this surgery failing eventually, you're going to have better results with a surgeon who's done this numerous times and specializes in it. So that's really important to know. So the first thing to ask is, if they talk about mesh, you're going to find out where and how they're using it. So research shows that sacrocolpopexy has mesh deterioration in upwards of 4 to 5% of cases. That is overall what I have found in the research. Transvaginal mesh, again, which shouldn't be done and isn't really being used anymore, but you'll have to find out because some surgeons are still doing it. That has a deterioration rate much higher, upwards of 25%. Okay, so like I said, they're very different. So don't let the idea of mesh scare you in that you say, I'm never having surgery whatsoever, because it's very different how it's used now. It is scary how it was used before. It's different how it's used now, and there are different types of repair, okay, with different rates of deterioration. Is there still a risk? Absolutely. There's risk in every single surgery, so you're going to have to find out what risk you're comfortable with. With a sacrocolpoplexy, if you need that done, you can use your own tissue or human tissue and avoid mesh altogether. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that recurrence of prolapse is higher when you use tissue versus mesh. So again, that's where you weigh the pros and cons, right? Do I want the risk of repeated prolapse higher, or do I want the risk of having no mesh? Do I want that gone? Do I just want no mesh? All right, so that's something to talk to your surgeon about, something to decide with your doctor. But keep in mind, like I said, transvaginal mesh is different than mesh that's used in a sacrocolpoplexy surgery. They're considered different. So what the FDA has eliminated and said don't sell, that is not what's done in the sacrocolpoplexy. And a lot of the research and a lot of the literature that I have read was really focusing on making sure women knew the difference, because they still think overall to this day the best way to surgically repair prolapse is using mesh in some capacity. But you want to find out, again, how it's used and when it's used and the experience of your doctor. So I hope that helps a little bit. I've had people ask, how do you know, or what are risk factors for possibly the deterioration of mesh? I think it's all over the board. I'll tell you, one thing for me that was important was making a decision to have it done when I was in my early 40s. Like I said, I was 41, versus waiting till I was older, because my tissues were stronger. I had more elasticity in my tissues and a better chance of healing than waiting until after menopause and waiting till I was older. So that's one thing. Another piece is obviously following all the precautions and contraindications after surgery, making sure you're not lifting when they tell you not to lift, making sure that you're following a really smart and slow exercise protocol again when you get back into moving afterwards. But that is my experience, and that is what I can tell you overall that I want you to go look at. Again, stay away from the fear-based forums. I know that you want information. There's just not a lot of really good medical-based research, and there's not a lot of positive experience out there. So for me, I have had a positive experience after surgery. I'm 14 months after surgery now from my prolapse repairs and my hysterectomy. It has been a long road. It's not easy. There have been times I've wondered, should I have done this? Should I have not? But when I really think about how my life was before versus how I feel now, I'm glad I did it. And I also know I made the right choice for me, because I did everything I could beforehand possible, and it wasn't working, and I wanted to manage this. The bulge is now completely gone for me. I pee many less times a day. I am able to run if I choose to, and I have a life that's a little easier to control without any of that pressure. But again, I've been smart about my recovery. I also know there is a recurrence possibility. There always is. I just do the very best I can to stay hopeful, to not focus on that, because I know I made the decision that was right for me. So as soon as my brain goes there, I take myself out of it, and I just remember what I can do, and I take one day at a time. I don't worry about what may or may not happen in the future, because again, I made the best decision for me in having the surgery. So like I said, feel free to go find all my other resources. You can leave questions. I'm happy to talk you through it. But the biggest thing is ask your surgeon, ask your doctor, make the right decision for you, and I will see you soon. Thanks so much for stopping by. Remember, subscribe to my channel and you'll be notified every time a new video comes up. Like and comment on this video and let me know what you thought. You can also always come over to jessicavalantpilates.com to find all the resources I have for living a healthy lifestyle, including full-length workout videos, healthy recipes, and a community I would love for you to be a part of. So I'll see you there.